start with a scene you might recognize. You log into your grade portal, your heart starts pounding, your stomach drops. There it is, that grade. Lower than you expected, lower than your friends, lower than the version of you that thought you had it all together. Suddenly, your brain whispers, I'm not smart. I'm a disappointment. Everyone else is doing better. What's the point of trying? And just like that, a number starts feeling like your identity. If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone, not even a little. Welcome to the Gracefully Growing podcast, where we provide you with real talk, real growth, and real life tools to help you thrive in school and in life. I am Dr. Kemi, author, educator, speaker, and gratitude advocate, as well as mom to an amazing 13 and a half year old sunshine. I'm so excited to have you continue on this journey with me as we explore the 5 key principles that will guide you to a fulfilling life. Those 5 key principles are gratitude, reflection, affirmation, connection, as well as empathy. If this is your first time here, let me catch you up real quick. Each week, we break down how to live with intention and thrive in this wild journey called teen life using the 5 key principles that I just mentioned. We address everything from bullying all the way to grades and all the way to sleep deprivation. Yes, we do. We have made it to 1,000 subscribers. So now I need you to help me get to 2,000 subscribers by making sure that you click that subscribe button. Make sure that you share, you like, and of course, I want to see your comments because I respond to all the comments. I want you to go ahead and grab your journal. If you do not have a journal, you can just simply grab a notebook. If you don't have a notebook, open the notes app on your phone so you can take some notes. Now, if you're looking for a great journal that will help you on this journey, I have written the Affirmation Gratitude Journal that is available on Amazon for purchase, and I'll be sure to post the link in the show notes. First things first, let's normalize this struggle that we tend to have about a grade. Here's the truth. Teens today face more academic pressure than any generation before. Between GPA comparisons, scholarship pressures, college expectations, parental expectations, social media highlight reels, group chats discussing grades, it can feel like your worth is being graded alongside your homework. But I want you to listen to me very carefully. Struggling with grades does not mean you are struggling as a human being. Let's talk about why grades feel so personal. And we're going to talk about the science behind that for just a moment. I want you to remember that your brain is still developing, especially your prefrontal cortex, which handles logic, perspective, and long-term thinking. Now, meanwhile, the amygdala on the other side, which is your emotional center, reacts quickly to threats. That's its job. Social comparison activates the same pain centers as physical injury. And that negative feedback triggers a survival response. So to your brain, a low grade can feel like rejection. It can feel like danger. It can feel like loss of belonging. It can feel like failure. Now, this is called identity fusion, when your performance becomes tied to your self-worth. But here's the reality. A GPA, this is your grade point average measures academic performance. It does not measure your intelligence. It doesn't measure your character, your creativity, your resilience, your leadership, or your kindness. And definitely, it does not define your future. Here are some truths that schools don't always teach you. You don't learn these things at school. Know this. Some straight A students struggle in real world problem solving. Did y'all know that? Did you know that some average students become extraordinary leaders? Did you know that some of the world's most successful people were not top students? Grades simply measures compliance and performance in a specific system. They don't measure creativity, empathy, perseverance, innovation, emotional intelligence, leadership. In other words, grades measure school success. They don't measure life success, or they don't determine life success. Here's a grace reset for you. When your grades make you feel small, when you feel defined by a number, it is time for you to have a grace reset. Let's walk through it together. We're going to start with gratitude. Gratitude allows you to interrupt the shame spiral that comes from a failing grade. When you feel like a failure, your brain scans for more evidence of that failure. What gratitude does for you is gratitude interrupts that loop. So in that moment, when you discovered that you have a failing grade, I want you to try saying, I am grateful I showed up and tried. I am grateful I have the opportunity to learn. I am grateful one grade does not define my future. Now, let's pause. Gratitude does not ignore the disappointment. All it does is it prevents identity collapse. It reminds your brain, I am more than this moment. It forces you to pause and realize that you are more than this grade. You are more than this one situation. Let's talk about what an identity collapse is. An identity collapse happens when one mistake makes you feel like you are the mistake. It's when a bad grade turns into you telling yourself, I am dumb. It's when losing a game turns into, I am a failure. It's when rejection turns into, I am not enough. A moment becomes your identity. So, identity collapse to a teenager sounds like, I'm just not smart. I always mess things up. What's the point of trying? I'm the dumb one in the group. Everyone else is better than me. I want you to notice that these statements attacks the self, not the situation. Now, why is this identity collapse dangerous for teenagers? Because it can lead to giving up, avoiding challenges, perfectionism and fear of failure, anxiety and depression, believing growth is impossible. If you believe you are the failure, trying feels pointless. And a lot of teens are vulnerable to this. Why? Because during adolescence, your brain is still forming your sense of self. Peer comparison is at an all-time high. Approval feels tied to belonging. So when something goes wrong, it can feel like I failed. I disappointed everyone. I don't measure up. Instead of, well, that didn't go well. I can improve. Or this is just temporary. Now let's talk about how the grace framework helps to prevent this identity collapse. The grace reset interrupts the moment before it becomes identity. Let's start with gratitude. Gratitude will remind you that this is one moment, not your whole life. Reflection separates performance from who you are. Affirmations rebuild truth-based self-belief. Connections reminds you you are not alone. And finally, empathy replaces self-criticism with self-compassion. Because oftentimes we don't have compassion for ourselves. We become our own worst critic, oftentimes. So instead of thinking, I am stupid, I want you to ask, did I understand the material? Did I study effectively? Was I overwhelmed or distracted? Did I ask for help? What can I do differently next time? Reflection turns shame into strategy. Failure isn't final. Remember that. It's feedback. Affirmations help you to rebuild your self-image. When your grades hurt, your inner voice can get brutal. That self-criticism, that negative self-talk, y'all, we need to retrain it. So I want you to try affirmations like this. My worth is not measured by a number. Number 2, I am capable of growth. Number 3, I can learn difficult things. Number 4, this grade is feedback, not a life sentence. Affirmations will reshape your neural pathways for you. And the more you repeat the truth, the more your brain will believe it. Moving on to connections. Connections reminds you, don't suffer alone, don't suffer in silence. Grades feel heavier, especially low grades. They feel heavier when you carry them alone. Talk to people. Talk to a teacher, a friend, your parent, a mentor, a counselor. Remember, I've often told you, you need to have your own circle of hype people that can support you. And what you will often discover is when you talk to other people, they're struggling too. You discover that your teachers want to help, and you discover that there is support for you to help you study, to help you look at things from a different perspective. Then there is mentoring. Connection dissolves shame. Because here's the thing I want you to know. Shame grows in silence. Let's move on to empathy. Treat yourself like you treat your friends. If your best friend failed a test, would you say to them, you're a failure, your future is over? Of course, you're not going to say that. Absolutely not. You're not going to say that, right? You might say, I know you tried. You do better next time. You might even encourage them and tell them, this doesn't define you. So give yourself that same compassion, empathy for yourself. Because you see, self-empathy is what builds your resilience. I want to tell you a story, and I did a whole podcast episode about this. When I was 16 years old, I failed a major college admissions test. Yeah. And I remember saying to myself, I am not smart. I didn't study hard enough. I'm never going to get into college. All my friends are going to get into college, and I am going to be stuck at home forever. Yes, I was 16. So everything felt huge to me at that time. And remember, my sole existence at that time was getting into college. And when I didn't, yeah, those were my thought process as a teenager. What I actually needed Come to find out later was a different learning strategy, tutoring support, confidence rebuilding. That's what I actually needed. So that by the next time I took the test, I was able to pass and get into college. I even became a teacher. I hold a doctoral degree. But who could have told me that at 16? If you told me that at 16 when I failed that test, I would have looked at you like, yeah, that's never going to happen because I can't even get into college. So, how are you telling me that you can see into my future that I will have a doctoral degree? Because I let that one number define me and I started to talk down on myself. I lacked self empathy. Where mine differed was I had connection. See, I didn't keep my low scores to myself. I've always been a talker, right? So I didn't keep it to myself. I shared with people who were able to connect me with the right resources. I was able to get into a study group. I was able to attend a special tutoring class for people like me who were looking to get into college and to study for the test. And I was able to get into college, right? Also, can I be honest with you for a minute, just between the two of us? Half the stuff you panic about in school, whether you're in middle school right now or high school, they're not gonna matter when you're buying groceries, paying bills, ordering coffee, and filing taxes. But well, that one matters. Because here's the thing, while you're buying your coffee, no barrister has ever asked you, sorry, I can't make your latte. What was your GPA? Exactly. No one asked me about my GPA right now, right? So I want you to think about that. Let's talk about an important perspective shift that I want you to start making. Instead of you asking yourself, what does this grade say about me? I want you to start asking yourself, what can this grade teach me? What skills can I build from this? How can I grow from here? This is the mindset of resilient people. This is what we mean when we tell you to fail forward. This is a growth mindset. When you're able to pause after getting a low grade to ask yourself these questions. What can this grade teach me? What skills can I build from this? And how can I grow from this? This is emotional resilience. Let's try your grace challenge for the week. If a grade has ever made you feel small, less than, I want you to try this. Step 1, write the grade that upset you. Step 2, write one thing you learned from the experience. Step 3, write one strategy to improve. And step 4, I want you to write down 3 truths about yourself that have absolutely nothing to do with school. For example, I am kind, I am creative, I am resilient. And then step number 5, tell yourself this: I am growing, I am learning, and I am more than a number. Listen to me carefully. You are not your GPA. You are not your test scores. You are not your report card. What you are is a developing human being with gifts the world needs. Grades can measure your performance, but they cannot measure your potential. And your story, it's still being written. So, in closing, if this episode helped you breathe a little easier, share with a friend who might need this reminder. And remember, I want you to live with grace. Give yourself grace. Grow with grace. And until next time, stay growing, stay graceful, and remember, I am cheering you on and You got this. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Gracefully Growing. Thank you so much for tuning in and growing with me. Remember, living with grace means showing gratitude, taking the time for reflection, speaking powerful affirmations, building strong connections, and practicing daily empathy with yourself and others. If today's episode gave you something to think about, inspired you, or made you smile, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can also download today's free resource in the show notes and join our Gracefully Growing community on social media for more tools, encouragement, and real talk. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, keep growing, and most of all, keep living with grace. I am Dr. Kemi. See you next week.